how are we going to catapult ourselves to the front of the line? We're competitive guys. We want the restaurants to be excellent. We want the best people. We knew that was going to take a commitment, because without the best people, we wouldn't get the best servers. Without the best servers, we wouldn't get the best bus people, and so forth. And
the restaurant with the best people wins.
I gotta point it out. I literally just finished interviewing one of your business partners. What a lovely woman. You weren't there for that conversation, but she reinforced everything we're talking about right now. When I talked to her about who were you before Defined, who were you after Defined, she's like, my partners elevated me. My partners let me focus on what I do so they can focus on what they do, and so we can all go further together. The values that you, Nick, Greg have to give and to make it about others and to make it about relationships and growing and collectiveness attracted her onto you, and she is doing so many amazing things for your collective group right now. Just won Best Chef Mid-Atlantic, James Beard. This is the examples of how it ripples.
Yeah.
This episode is brought to you by Restaurant Systems Pro. With excitement, allow me to introduce to you back on the show for a second time for each of you. That's how much I enjoy working with you two. Honestly, it's been a pleasure. We're talking to Ed Doherty with 1 Degree and Al Lucas with Defined Hospitality. So we're here to talk about PIE, Predictive Index, and a little backstory. I discovered the Defined Hospitality Group through Eli Culp, who referred you folks to me organically, said you got to talk to these guys. They're doing amazing work, which you are. I've had the pleasure of speaking to Al and both Greg Root and Al Lucas, partners. There's 3 of you. There's 3 partners.
Yep. Nick Kennedy. Thank
you very much. And you two delivered 2 amazing interviews. I was smitten with what we got. It was awesome. My interview with you, Al, you said I started working with this gentleman, Ed Doherty, to your right. And he...
Did I say gentleman?
Yeah, that's
might have. Maybe it was a slip.
Totally inaccurate.
And he said that he's been working with Ed, and that it's been such a great time, and it's really helped empower. I think we're talking about like emotional intelligence or something, or just I can't remember the conversation specifically, but it definitely sparked my interest. And I said, well, I'm interested in this Ed Doherty character. And I think you actually told me I needed to interview him. That was, you called him out. Got Ed Doherty on the show. First interview ever in my own apartment, which was kind of fun. And we dove into Ed's story. We dove into Predictive Index. From there, I got Matt Pepsel on the show. So this is like the future of Restaurant Unstoppable. This is what I want it to be. I want my interview to be my research. I want to take a journalistic approach, and I want to just chase the truth, or at least one person's perspective of the truth, and to get as much perspective as possible. But this is a vein that has been like riding really well for me, and I'm into it. So with that context, I'm going to pass it to Ed to talk. Well, actually, I don't. Whoever wants to go first. So what we're here to do, really, my mission with today's conversation is to help my listeners understand why PI, Predictive Index, a behavioral analysis platform, and how it works. So we're gonna basically, through story, talk about how you guys came across each other, and the impact that PI has had on your operations. And we have some teasers at the end if you're interested in PI. After this, we have some giveaways. So if you guys are into free shit, stick around, because we got some free shit coming your way. All right, who wants to go first? I think maybe Ed. Do you want to?
I'll frame it.
Please.
Yeah. So
how did I do so far?
That was great.
You're
perfect.
You're fine. Yep.
You should have a podcast.
Absolutely. So I'm a leadership coach, and I also build intentional cultures. You know, the concept is that we build happy, high-performing teams at 1 Degree. So the most important skill set for any leader is emotional intelligence, and there's 5 pillars of emotional intelligence. It's a competency.
I'm going to pause you at 5 pillars. Take that microphone, pull it straight to your face.
You got it.
There you go.
How's that?
A lot better. Thank you. It's going to start getting noisy in here as they start setting up.
You got it.
All right. 5 pillars.
So the 5 pillars, this first pillar is self-awareness. So if you want to be an effective leader, emotional intelligence is the fastest route. there was a study done on emotional intelligence of 200 leaders in 200 businesses. And those with emotional intelligence or high levels of EQ, emotional quotient, IQ, EQ, they were 90% more effective as leaders on the executive level. On the mid-manager level, they were 60% more effective. So if you want to be an effective leader, great place to go is emotional intelligence. It occurs naturally in about 5 to 10% of the population. Didn't occur naturally for me, but you can learn it. It can be learned and taught. And you have to start with self-awareness. And the Predictive Index, PI, is a talent optimization platform that will help you with your self-awareness.
Yeah. Daniel Goleman, the godfather of
Right.
emotional intelligence, is quoted as saying emotional intelligence is the peak, self-awareness is the peak of emotional intelligence.
That's right.
It's at the actual, the very pinnacle of becoming self-aware. Or, yes.
Yep.
Yeah.
So you have to open the door.
Yes.
And PI helps open the conversation to that.
Yeah. And a little side note, a little cliff note here. If anybody's listening to this and they're interested in learning more about emotional intelligence, get Daniel Goleman's work.
Yeah.
It's so powerful. It's great stuff. Are you familiar with that, Al?
Yes, I am. Yep.
Yeah, awesome stuff. So, did I cut you short, Ed?
Nope.
So, okay. How did you two start working with each other? What's the history between the two of you?
Al and I came up basically the same time in the same way in the restaurant business, but we never met. And I was always a fan of Al's and his work. And how did we actually meet?
I don't know. I'm thinking about that answer, and it's odd. I mean, I just feel like it's a person that I knew for 25 years without ever knowing.
Yeah.
And oddly, through other people that either worked for Ed or worked with me at some point, people just assumed we knew each other.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
And then specifically how we even got to 1 Degree, I can't even recall specifically.
This
how
is
that
really
happened.
weird.
It's a small industry, no matter where you are in the country or the world, for that matter. And when you're in the same city, I think you just kind of know each other through like osmosis of just being around. Like you just, over time, you just start bumping against the same people over and over again. We all have reputations. I know you both have great reputations.
Mhm.
And I'm sure everybody in the city knows that.
Yeah.
So, when did you first say to yourself, we need help with something? Like, what was the narrative? Why did you reach out to Ed, or did Ed reach out to you to start working on it?
I don't remember.
Me neither.
But I do know.
At some point, somebody started paying
Yeah.
somebody, right?
Yeah. It was very much the time when we were shut down. Our restaurants were shut down, and Greg, Nick, and I were just kind of huddling around.
2020.
Yeah, thinking about what's next. Will we survive? And if we survive, we were going to survive. But what are we learning? Because I think the most important thing that was happening was not just COVID, but the 80% of the people that were leaving the industry and or more, and only 20%, 25% coming back. And so we were paying very close attention to the why. And we determined that when things started to come back, quote unquote, whatever degree that was, that we really wanted to ensure that we were thinking about if people are going to sign back up for work, we wanted it to be with us, both management and then staff. And so we really sort of dissected what we were hearing out there in the industry. What were the major criticisms? And one of the things that we determined, along with pay and benefits and sort of the in a way, kind of tough financial decisions, but easier decisions, was we wanted to really focus in on the life of our managers, because we thought, and when I say managers, it's our chefs as well, because we thought if they have an enhanced life, then that would cascade into the staff, and because they're the ones who are dealing with them, on a continual basis. And so we wanted to really focus in on them with the thought that we wanted their time with Defined Hospitality to count in a way that was meaningful, not just while they worked with us, but forever and ever. And I think that that's one of the common bonds that Ed and I had, probably through some of the corporate jobs that we had, that people invested in us. And, we have a skill set that we've, in spite of being goofballs half the time, that we can carry forward. And what I really had this vision of is anyone that stayed with us, I knew that would benefit from it. But if someone left for whatever reason, that they would look back over their shoulder and say, hey, I'm really stoked that I worked for Define Hospitality. They invested in me, and I feel more confident. I feel more balanced. And the whole premise of some wise person said, know thyself, that's where it starts. And
Right.
so we thought that hooking up with Ed and what he could bring and his partner at the time, Maria, what they could bring was that sort of outside perspective. We would stop time for them. And though Greg, Nick, and I are in the restaurants on a day-to-day basis, it wasn't a calculated leadership development thing. It was us imparting, quote unquote, our wisdom in the moment. Some of them were calculated than others, but we wanted to really show that we were investing, and I think that's the genesis of our relationship.
I kind of want to go deeper on this because you're striking a chord with me right now.
Yeah, me
for
too.
Sure. And just to offer some perspective, what you just share with us is a key element of what makes us human. Think about everything we have today that we take for granted: hot showers, memory foam mattresses, ovens, all the luxuries. We live better than most kings and queens of all history, and it's been because of eons and eons and eons of standing on the shoulders of those that came before us, and is genetically encoded within us to lift other people up. I'm so excited I can't even talk right now. To lift other people up and to make them better than who we were and who we are. Going into the future, how do we become better? The cool thing about the time we live in now is we have more data and information before, so we can be way more intentional about what better looks like going forward.
Mm-hmm.
I think for 30 years, better was more for less.
Mm-hmm.
Scalability, and I think we kind of lost our way for a while as a society. I don't know if you guys have been around longer than I have.
Yeah, I think I would just say this. First of all, let's recognize also through eternity is that the individual human being is bombarded with negativity, absolutely bombarded. It used to be the newspaper, you'd pick it up, and if you read the hot headlines or you just read the front page, you might just go back in the bed and crawl under the covers and not go do anything. Now it's our web browser.
It's also human nature to focus on the negative.
Yeah, and
Yes.
so the negative sells, in our media and so many other facets of life, and so that intention that we talk about and framing your day is what makes the difference. If there's this percentage of people that just get it from birth, and then they're groomed through their upbringing, and they can bring the heat on a day-to-day basis, the positivity, well, those are the rarest of birds. And I will tell you, that's not me. I had to be developed. I had to think about my own purpose, my own habits. No one likes to be thought of as a negative person, but there's certainly a time in my life where I look back and I look very clearly at certain moments, and lo and behold, I was a negative guy. And you would ask me, are you negative? No, I'm Mr. Positive. Well, fact is if you really take accounting of each word, each moment, each facial expression, I would say that I know I was a negative person. And so I started to really delve into how do I frame me in a way that is something that is meaningful and makes my time on earth a little bit more valuable to others. And so that sort of began my journey. And I think that, Nick, Greg, and I had this moment in time where we really wanted to be way more intentional about framing our company in that fashion as well. And in spite of the obstacles, we have obstacles, today that are alive and well, but we know how we want to represent ourselves.
And to paraphrase, reframing our organization in that way, just paraphrase shortly, precisely what that way was or is going to be.
Well, first of all, we wanted to define our values. We didn't, the golden rule is fantastic. It sort of supersedes everything and weaves everything, but we wanted to expand on that, put it in our own words, because somebody already came up with the golden rule and no one counted me as the author. We wanted to author our own values, and we wanted that to be something that became the bedrock, something that we could relate to others, share with others, but also use it as the way we make decisions.
And the key value that we're talking about, that we've identified right now, is lifting other people up, creating opportunity for other people, leaving them better than the way we found them. Is that right?
Yeah, that's embedded in our core values.
What is your
100%.
core value specifically that touches on that?
Well, first of all, people are the priority. and so that starts it. But that's a big subject because we connect that to other things like awareness of the big picture. There's a lot of teaching involved, but people being the priority is, we look at it not just the person sitting next to me at any given time. We're looking at it very globally. Our vendors are, we have a noisy air conditioning here, and the people that live across the street are, they're the victims of that. We got to get that fixed. The people are the priority, sort of transcends everything, and so we take that very seriously.
And we're getting into now some of Matt Pepsel's work, this idea of enlightened leadership, expanding your circle, and it starts with you, your family, your team members, your neighbors, your community, and then it just keeps on going out. And that's kind of what I'm hearing from you right now. Yeah,
it's you want to be a good citizen. I mean, people, our time here is short, and we want it to be a lasting time in terms of that people can say, hey, those guys, they cared.
Yeah.
Plain and simple. They they aspired to do great work, and they wanted to bring people with them and champion others.
Ed, did you want to weigh in on the why?
Yeah. So, it's interesting. Why is the most important thing for an organization? Most people.
Simon Sinek, it is.
Yeah. Right. Yeah. Absolutely. And the values are the how you do your why, and they chose their why, and then we helped build their value system. And it just helps the team to focus on how they can be their best on any given day, knowing we're human, right? But we also have to give the leaders the skill set so that they can be better leaders. Because at the end of the day, you have a vision, and then you have the end result, and you have metrics and all these things we're trying to get done, grow sales, be profitable, tough business to do that in. In the middle is the manager. So they have to be the vision mover. So the why is the vision. And then that person in the middle has to believe what you believe within reason. And then they live through the values. So it really does help. But back to a point that Al was making, we got devastated, the restaurant business. We were devastated during COVID. A lot of talent got drained from our ranks, and a lot of them didn't come back. And we had to start fresh. And I think it's really important for all restaurants to understand that it is truly the manager that is going to be the one that's going to make or break your ability to do all the things that Al said that he wants to do with people.
They're the culture carriers.
They are the vision movers of the culture carriers, absolutely, and they're on the front lines. So this is so crucial, and it gets missed a lot. And so I'm trying to champion this idea that right now there's a revolution going on where there's the future of work and there's a new world order in work, and the restaurant business is part of that, and we're one of the biggest.
Like a leading edge, I would argue, almost.
Yes,
I hope so.
Absolutely,
I want it to be.
How many people worked at McDonald's?
Right.
That were like that was their first job, and that's also true for the restaurant business. How do we attract talent? Like, how do we attract talent into the restaurant world so that we become an employer of choice? And the best way to do it is improve the culture and have better leadership. For me, there's no argument there. And recently, Forbes magazine, about a month ago, published an article based on a Pearson study that said that there's soft skills used to be this fun thing or nice thing you would do. Let's all get more empathetic when we have time. Pearson is saying that the skills, the upskills, we all have to upskill, right? We all have to upskill our abilities. We have to learn as we go. Pearson's saying that emotional intelligence is where you have to go, back to my original point. So if it is true, then as restaurant organizations need to teach these things. They need to find a way of teaching how to be more self-aware, how to be more empathetic, how to be more vulnerable, all these soft skills that in the past were certainly not the way of the restaurant world. The restaurant world that we grew up in, it was, our way or the highway. And now suddenly we have to upskill as leaders. And those restaurants that do that, and those restaurant organizations or any organization, will have a competitive advantage in this still very difficult, people market.
Yeah, for sure. Anything else we want to get out in terms of the why before we break to thank our sponsors and come back and start talking about how this unpackaged in your business, Al? Like, with Divine Hospitality. Anything else that we want to get out?
If I could just say one more thing.
Yeah, please.
Just to help the conversation. If you understand people, you understand business. And all business problems are people problems. So
this is why we get along so well.
Yeah.
I love saying that business is literally all about relationships.
Yeah.
It's baked into the word company. Think
Right.
about how else we talk about companies. The company you keep, the
Right.
people, the company. It's your relationships.
corporation is the body. It's a corpus,
Right.
So, yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. Al?
Well, I think the why, obviously we're sitting back there evaluating the carnage of COVID, but a big other part of the why is let's also remember that this is an industry that has always been second to the front lines. When the real frontline people are, getting out there and taking care of emergencies, the next frontline group is the restaurant industry. We show up. We show up for each other. We show up for the community. We show up to feed people. And we have a gazillion amazing examples of that coast to coast worldwide. And I think that part of the why for me was to not only enhance that, but to remind people that our industry is a great one because of that.
Yeah.
Yes.
And come on back because we can do more. And as a matter of fact, we're going to do more.
Yeah. It's strange. Go ahead.
It teaches essential skills, period. Like Al and I could do anything. Like I have pivoted to basically management consulting, right? My own form of it. But Al and I could go anywhere and do anything. Why? Because we are the Swiss Army knife.
Right.
Restaurant managers are the Swiss Army knife and chefs of the business world. They just don't know it. You can come here and learn essential skills. And the power skills that are going to be needed in the next 10 years where employers are going to be looking for, they're taught here. So
that is a key reason why I think this industry
Yes.
has the ability to change the world.
Mhm.
Because if we set the standard,
Which is
for
your
the-
why.
Yeah.
Yeah.
If we set the standard and if our job is to lift those up around us, we're getting all these green people who are still wet behind the ears, we're their first impression of what it means to be in the workforce. And if we set that bar high, holy shit, the rest of the world has to follow in suit.
Listen, you have to give work meaning.
Yeah.
When you give work meaning, it creates purpose. And human beings are purpose maximizers. It's our air
Yeah.
that we breathe. And so you can turn, I scrape other people's food off of a plate into a trash can. That's what I do for a living. No, that's not what you do for a living. I mean, Al told this amazing story, and I bring it up all the time, that when he was a dishwasher, as I was too, he was brought out, and I have Al tell the story, gave meaning and purpose to what he was doing. He was scraping crap off of a plate, and his owner had the insight to say, Al, it's much more than that. You have to give meaning. So we can say now, you in this business, you can learn power skills, essential skills that are absolutely transferable to your future.
Yeah.
Come join us for a little time, or maybe like Al and I, we came in by accident and we got stuck here.
Yeah.
Right?
It's interesting because I think especially in a first world country, we almost take food for granted because we've gotten so good at industrializing it. If you're alive today, all you've known is an industrialized food system with abundance.
Yeah.
You can walk in 100 feet in any direction and be next to a meal.
Right.
We're just so unaware
Yes.
of the importance of food. Like Al, you made the point, whenever shit hits the fan, first go the first responders, and right behind them is the restaurant industry. We need people, and people need food.
Mm-hmm.
But we just have so much abundance of food that we just don't realize how important it is to be in that industry. It's almost like we take it for granted.
Right.
But it's connected to everything, and I think it's important that we remind people of the food system's broken, and we can also be a part of fixing the broken food system if we choose to feed people a certain way.
That's right.
Anyway, we're trying to keep this one under an hour, so
Yeah,
I feel
yeah.
like the three of us sitting around the table, we
Sure.
can just keep on going. Any final thoughts before we pivot to how? All right, we're going to take a break to thank our sponsors. We'll be right back. We have to interrupt today's video to let you know that right now, Restaurant Systems Pro is offering a no strings attached 60-day trial that will help you improve your systems, increase your profit, and find better work-life balance. All you have to do is click the link below. We're back. So Okay, back to the timeline, the story, your relationship. The year's 2020. Al, in the Defined Hospitality Group, realized that we need to readjust our core values. We need to prioritize and get closer to our why. And we identified that creating opportunity and lifting other people up is core to what we do. When did you reach out to Ed to help you with this?
Boy,
Or
I'll tell
why
you.
did you reach out to Ed?
Well, the why was we saw clearly what we wanted to accomplish with our leadership and developing their soft skills and helping them navigate, which we thought was going to be extraordinarily difficult times coming out of it. So how we got connected, I'm not exactly sure. I got to think about that. But we knew it felt good. And then the other part was it wasn't just a leadership training program, consultant. It was people in our industry. They've walked in our shoes, and they saw what we saw. So there was a meld at that time. The other really important part of the why for us was we also wanted to make sure that the company wasn't just a reflection of Greg, Nick, and I. We wanted it to be bigger than that. We wanted it to be a reflection of all of the people that were participating. And the general manager of the restaurant we're sitting in right now, Phoebe O'Leary, is a great example of that. She came back during the pandemic as an hourly at Soraya. We're handing beautiful food and to-go containers through a window, hoping somebody will buy it. And she was there. And we thought it was important for her because she was in there front lining it with us. That she should be a part of how we wanted to mold the company going forward. And she's just one example of many. So we wanted that input, and we wanted them to help participate in what each pivot would look like, but ultimately start really honing in and funneling in what we wanted the company to be on an ongoing basis.
So at what point do you, I guess Ed, at what point do you remember working with Al and Defined? And
Well,
Greg
it's so funny because we're both, maybe it's our age, but I don't remember exactly how it clicked, and I think Maria might have had something to do with that, and she's not working with me anymore. But we were trying. Maria
Yes.
Campbell, yeah.
Yeah, past guest on the show.
Cooks Who Care.
Yeah,
Amazing, great
work that she's doing.
nonprofit. Yeah, mental
her.
health.
Yep.
Really miss her, but I'm so happy that she's really doing her essential why. But she was a great partner for many years. So we were trying to help, and that was around how do we attract people back to the business. So we came up with this idea of this employer of choice program where we're teaching frontline managers and companies not to have intentional culture, as I mentioned, but also improve those leadership skills. And so that was the nugget. I think that's how we initially got together.
Got it.
Yeah.
So at what point do you guys start having the narrative of here's this thing called Predictive Index.
Mm-hmm.
Here's how it works. What was the user experience like? I'm curious. Like what was, get into like the impact it started to have and how you learned about it.
Well, I think from Predictive Index became this thing that Ed introduced to us after we'd made some inroads on some of our initial goals with working with them. And the values were developed. The chefs and managers had a major input. As a matter of fact, they were the ones that really put the icing on the cake and cleaned them up. Mm-hmm. Greg and Nick and I and Ed and Maria really whiteboarded it, but it still was chunky and not as clean as we envisioned. And the managers and chefs really got after it and boiled it down to us that made it meaningful for everybody. Mm. We started on our monthly management seminars. We were making progress there. And then as we started to really think about, we had this restaurant, Kalea, getting ready to be launched. So now we not just need people for our existing restaurants, we got to open up a brand new restaurant. And Ed introduced us to Predictive Index as an opportunity to, as a team building tool. And it was, hey, look at this. So it went hand in hand with what we were teaching in the monthly leadership seminars. And what we were what really it sort of accelerated was that moment of, okay, everybody individually gets to take a good look at themselves
Right.
through some really heady stuff. And I'm telling you, I get, I see everybody's in the organization's predictive index, including my partners. And there's probably only 2 people out of like 50, 60 people now that like, I'm kind of, I don't know if I really see that. Everyone else is coming to me like going, who's been following me around all these years? They are like, they're mesmerized by the result because, though some things maybe not have been so clear to them, they get it. They see it in a way that is meaningful. And I think one of the greatest things about Predictive Index, I was thinking about this morning driving here, was, we spend a lot of time sometimes trying to focus on what somebody can't do. And what you realize, and that becomes frustrating. Boy, they just can't do this. And what you're missing the great narrative. The great narrative is the stuff they can do.
Right.
And the success comes in cans, right? Not in the cannots. and so we, I think Predictive Index allows you to go, okay, this is their strong suit. Yeah, it would be great to have them learn Excel more. I'm talking about me, but others. But look how great they are here. And so now your job assignment becomes easier. And what that does is allows people to get their wins because you're playing to their strengths.
Right.
And you got a passing quarterback. You're not going to run the triple option, or you're going to have a frustrated quarterback. We go with our strengths now, and then that allows that person to fill in the blanks of some perceived weaknesses or some skill sets that will never really be their strength, but just to become a better we can focus in on that later.
I feel like it's the difference between trying to force somebody into a mold or building a mold around them.
Yeah, it's a lot of times. Well, we know it's taking the ego out of the other leaders.
Yeah.
Here's what's really important to understand is you just hit the nail on the head. But so many times leaders tried to build other people into their own likeness,
right?
Because it worked for them, and that's where their comfort zone is. And it's not until you really learn how to work with people that aren't like you that you can really multiply your success. And I have this story. Years and years ago, I had this management team that was absolutely just on fire. And they were all doing great. The restaurant was doing amazing. The manager would be promoting, we're getting promotions. And I had one manager that came to me one day, and he was from Brazil. And it was, first of all, a challenge for me because I'd never really worked with an immigrant, a first generation immigrant. So that alone was a challenge. And he came to me and he said, "Mr. Al, I do not appreciate your style of leadership." And and I said, "Wow, I haven't heard this." And basically what he illuminated for me in that moment was, you're building a great team of everybody like you. If you like the things I liked, and if you kind of had the same interest and you liked my jokes and things like that, then you could be really successful under Al. But I wasn't good for somebody that wasn't like that. And so that was a very poignant moment. And I got smacked right across the head, and thankfully I listened. But Predictive Index in a lot of ways is the accelerator, because you don't have to have the trial and error. You already kind of know. And then if you're in a position to lead, then you utilize the information that you were given to accelerate not only the relationship building, but the game plan to get great results through others. And so before there was Predictive Index, there was Luis, who smacked me on the head. Predictive Index sort of helps you avoid some of the pain.
So that's a great story, and I have very similar stories to that before I was completely self-aware. But the new world era, the new workplace era we're in, it demands that leaders control and command is over, right? That used to be the old way, and it's a very restaurant way. We're a military operation, right? Brigade, Brigade system. The new era requires that leadership develop a skill where you have to understand what people need from you as a leader, That's this kind of cognitive empathy where it's like, oh, this person needs something different from me. And that was never a skill before. And the predictive index absolutely helps you with that.
Yeah. So I have had the privilege of getting my analysis.
Yes.
I found it eye-opening.
Mm-hmm.
I think we're all somewhat self-aware. We have clues, we have ideas, we have our self-belief, but we're like, I don't know how others perceive me necessarily, or like, but when you take that test and you're brutally honest with yourself, and like you're going through, it only takes what, 5 minutes, 6 minutes?
Yeah, 5 or 6 minutes.
It's not hard to do. And you're just like, ugh, like, do I want to like identify with this word or whatever? Like, you're like, well, if you're being honest, if you want to get good results,
please be honest. If you take the predictive,
you're
index.
only cheating yourself if you're not, right? It helps you move forward with so much confidence because you're like, these feelings I had about myself,
right? I
now know are true,
and that's key.
Yeah. So like that's the just taking that alone. If you get anything out of this, just become more self-aware. Even if you don't choose to go with the service, becoming self-aware, and you see when you get your results and you get that awareness, and you're just like, oh, this is who I am. Let me stay in my lane. Like, it just, for me, it was validating. You know, it was like weight off my shoulders.
Yes. Yeah. And for me, you know, when I was a young chef, I remember I was 24. At 24, I became a head chef in the 1980, 81, 82, I don't know. But the bottom line is I was very defensive. And in PI, they have these little analogies that help people accept this, that we all wear a T-shirt, right? It says Ed Doherty, you know, awesome guy, amazing chef, blah, 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 and all the things that I want to believe about myself. The opportunities are in the back of the T-shirt, and you can't see them. And Predictive Index helps reveal that for you. Yeah. And usually, you know, it's a small segment, but you have folks that look at it and go like, that's not me. And they don't want to go there. But that's where the growth is. That's where the learning is. That's where the upskilling is. It's on the back of your T-shirt. So it starts the conversation. Yeah.
I'm aware Al might not be able to stay with us to the very end of today's recording. So I want to make sure, you know, Al, we've been recording for 36 minutes. Time now is 12:30.
I'm good still.
Okay, he's good, cool. Good. I'd love to have him stay.
So I do want to kind of focus on, while we have you, what your experience with PI has been and how it's been transformative, the before and after. So are you comfortable getting vulnerable?
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Well, let's talk about his profile.
Yes. That's what I'm hoping for. So what profile are you after you took the analysis?
I'm a maverick.
Okay.
Yeah.
We got two mavericks.
Yeah, we do.
From Maria. Ed is also a maverick.
There's 17 reference profiles, by the way. Yeah.
Do you have them committed in memory?
No. I mean, I could go through them, but yeah.
I am so appropriately, as a podcaster, a promoter.
That's right.
Yeah. And like, do you know how good that felt? To be like, am I doing the right thing?
Yeah, you're on track.
Is this what I'm supposed to be doing? Is my life on the right track? Exactly. And to get those results and to like get validated, I felt self-actualized before that, but I fucking blew through the roof after that. Wow. I was like, this is what I'm supposed to be doing. There's
That's beautiful.
No question. Part of my language, it deserved an F-bomb. So, Al, maverick.
You.
What is a maverick?
Well, I guess I should have Ed describe it, because I feel like it's describing myself as.
I actually kind of rather hear it come from Ed.
Yeah.
Well, there is, every profile has its little.
Why am I a maverick, Ed?
Al, that's because you are an innovative, out of the box thinker who is undaunted by failure.
And what is the term that you are, Ed, as far as you are a PI implementer, or?
Yeah, I'm a partner. I'm a PI partner.
So you're an expert in the subject. I think we have to make it clear.
I'm trying to be.
Yeah.
You know, I've only known the platform for 2 years.
So what are the strengths and weaknesses and not every maverick is exactly the same.
Well, let's just start real quick, like to explain to the audience that there are 4 factors that we look at in PI, and that is your dominance, you know, your drive. So there's drives and needs, right? And they become behaviors in the workplace. By the way, PI has been around since World War II, and it was developed exclusively for the workplace. So unlike other assessments, it's completely marketplace driven. So the 4 factors are dominance, and that's your drive or your need to apply your will on people and in events. So that's more controlling. And there's a continuum. You either have low dominance or high dominance. The next is extroversion. That's easy to understand. Just how much you want to be around people and how much you want to socialize. Then there's patience, and that's really kind of your tempo, by the way, too, and how much you want to like get down and be more heads down, be in front of a computer all day. That's somebody with high patience. Not me or Al. And then low patience is you just want to move around and kind of get shit done fast. And then your formality, and that's your relationship to rules and structure. And so if you have high formality, you're somebody who's like, it's all about the rules, ambiguity is not your friend. But unlike Al and myself, we have very low formality, and we can like swim in the deep end of the pool without swimmies on, And so that's the 4 factors. So a maverick has high dominance. And that means they know what they want, and they know, and they got the idea, and they really aren't as collaborative as they maybe could be, but they're more the visionary type. And then high extroversion is a maverick's next essential factor, and we're social creatures. We like to move fast. We're very driving, and we also like a lot of flexibility in our day. So if you put Al or I as mavericks in an office and said your job is going to be to work 8 hours in front of a screen, we would look at each other and go like, no, we're not. And we would spit the bit, as my friend likes to say. We would spit the bit, and we would not be happy in that job. So it's about finding the happy place. You've heard the analogy, putting the right people on the bus in the right seats.
Yeah.
This is exactly what it is. Yeah, it's good to great.
Yeah.
And this is the emotional component of that.
Right.
So you can put somebody emotionally on the right seat on the bus.
Well, the cool thing about this whole process is you can't help anybody else until you've helped yourself.
That's
We've
right.
learned that, right?
Yeah.
So the process is you take it first,
Mm-hmm.
And I think that alone, just to like, am I not happy? Why am I not happy?
Right.
And when you start learning about yourself,
Mm-hmm.
and then you go, well, this makes sense. I'm not in the right seat myself.
Yeah.
Like that alone, like again, I'm emphasizing this is enough to start the process, right? But then, so okay, actually back to Al.
Mm-hmm.
After Ed
It's about
got into
time.
that,
Yeah. Sorry, I'm a maverick.
as you're
Dominate.
listening to yourself and you're like these character traits, like what are in terms of like strengths and weaknesses? Let's start with weaknesses because that's always
Mm-hmm.
fun. How did becoming more self-aware of your weaknesses serve you?
Well, I'll give you a story.
We call them cautionaries, by the way.
I like the weaknesses.
So
It's dramatic.
I'm working with our general manager at the Pizzeria Badia, and she's amazing. She
Mm-hmm.
opened the restaurant. She's incredibly talented, just an industry vet, loves the business, and she's very collaborative. And so I would have my weekly meeting with her, and I'd walk in, and I'd be like, Heather, I ate here last night, and they had the coolest this, that, and the other, and had this wine, and I'd be all wanting to talk about the business of just my life. And she'd be sitting there very patiently, and she'd have her list, and she, just numbered, neat writing, and I would just and it took me a while, and it wasn't until the PI, I'm like, all the air would have to come out of my balloon, and then we could actually have a meeting. So now with PI, I realized, well, what makes Heather tick? This meeting isn't for me.
Yeah.
This meeting's for her.
Yeah.
And so I would head down to the pizzeria with an entirely different level of consciousness. Heather wanted to work through the list first, collaborate, have a game plan, have someone weigh in and validate her ideas or approval for her ideas, and then she could relax, and then talking about whatever was full game because she's into the business. But I was actually making her very uneasy with my approach, where here I'm thinking it's relaxing, we're talking about the business, and she wants to get to the business. And so without PI, I could have fumbled along. Thank goodness she was who she was, and she was patient.
She a specialist?
But she shouldn't have to. She was a collaborator.
Yeah.
And but it shouldn't be that she has to wait for me. I'm one of the leaders of the organization. I should be aware enough that I'm there to serve her.
Yeah.
And how's that meaning going to be meaningful, and how is it going to be collaborative, and how is she going to, how's it when the meeting ends, is she going to feel good about it? Did she get what she needed from me? So PI changed my entire approach to her, and it was super efficient, and she got stuff done. The restaurant thrived, and I didn't get in her way.
Yeah. Any other examples you can think of in terms of how becoming more self-aware after taking this assessment has served you, like, and maybe helped you in making a right decision?
Yeah, I think the right decision, always boils down to developing the right relationship. And so the self-awareness piece of that was sort of the next component of PI for us, and that was matching people. So there's a factor in PI that allows you and I to put your profile on top of mine, and we get another whole assessment of where you and I are going to thrive, and where we could maybe conflict or not get the best out of each other. Mm-hmm. And so I would say that level of PI was very helpful in several ways. It was helpful for me to be a better partner. And that's really important, because if the three partners aren't in sync to a great degree, then the message out in the restaurants can be disjointed. And so I would say that portion of PI allowed me to get a greater look at my relationships with Greg and Nick in a different way. And Greg I'd known since 2002. I had actually hired him as a manager at Star Restaurants in 2002, and Nick I just met in like 2016 or 17. So here was this relationship that I'd had for a long time, and then there was this new relationship I had. And so, by virtue of my personality and my maverickness, I could make Nick feel like the odd man out, when the irony is I was actually the third person joining the partnership. And that was by virtue of the fact that I knew Greg longer, and I wasn't self-aware enough of how that might impact Nick. The irony of that is the sort of overlay between Greg and I sometimes our blind spots to each other would actually result in the most friction, where we would like just have it out, but we could make up very quickly, but we would have it out. And then when I really got to overlay mine with Nick, our relationship actually flourished, because nothing that he had done differently. It's all how I looked at the relationship differently. And I looked at the relationship through the lens of how he ticks, and then how I tick, and how can I enhance the relationship. And
what other did you say they're sorry, go ahead.
Greg is a controller, and Ed actually talks about Nick's PI because it's one of the rarest.
Yeah, adapter.
An adapter.
Yeah.
And so there was Nick always having to adapt. And so we were able to cut through that. And so I think that alone, it helps the organization, because now you have the ownership that they're more self-aware with each other.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And so we get to set a better example.
Yeah. I was hoping to go to break and talk about how it affects the entire organization.
Yeah.
You kind of got ahead of us, but that's fine.
That's a good question.
Awesome. It's awesome. Yeah. What were you wanting to say, Ed? I feel like you're trying to...
No, I was going to actually get into the idea of these conflicting values within an organization, and how PI helps with that too.
Yeah. Let's save that for when we come back. We talk about the bigger picture. So
you got it.
My train of thought is thinking personally, and then how it expands and grows into the organization. So I kind of want to get selfish a little bit and talk about myself.
Yeah, of course.
So as a promoter.
Yeah.
So how it helped me become self-aware and just like trying to figure out direction and future. Like 2023 has been a big year for me, where like I'm really I've slowed down to speed up. Right. It's one of these things you have to do. Kind of like what you were doing in 2020 when the whole industry was forced to slow down. But it's like, what's the strategy moving forward? I have people that I'm working with now. It's not just me. My decisions directly affect other people. And like, it's like trying to like create this Venn diagram of like what is aligned with me in my personal skills and what will make me happy and what will make my listeners happy and serve them, but also these other people, like how do we play to our strengths and how do we stay happy and how to like where do all these circles overlap, right? And just trying to like be intentional and to play to your strengths. So we just had our annual meeting with our 10-year plan and our 5-year plan with the EOS language now to help steer our level 10 meetings going forward and all this stuff. So to be taking this test, or not this test, it's not a test.
An assessment.
Matt Pepsel would be pissed off at me right now. It's an assessment.
The Godfather.
To take this assessment at this time was so powerful, and it really helps steer. So, okay, talk to me about a promoter. What are the strengths and weaknesses, or sorry, those are
cautionaries.
Thank you.
Well, promoters are exactly that. They're people who get very excited about a concept or an idea.
Me get excited?
Yeah, with excitement. And they're off to the races. They have something in common with us Mavericks, is that sometimes the details get lost.
Guilty.
Yeah, and if you want to talk about, and can I really be candid?
Please. Give it to me, man.
Ready? Some people can perceive promoters as being superficial. Did that hurt?
No.
Okay, good.
It's because I perceive myself as being superficial sometimes.
Right, and superficial sounds so negative.
What's
it's
the
horrible.
definition of superficial?
Yeah.
What am I agreeing to?
Yeah, but so, and I'm going there because PI actually uses that language, and it makes me uncomfortable.
Oh my God!
What they use that superficial language.
Yeah.
And but what it means is that you have to. You said intentional. You've been talking to me ever since you took PI. You've been talking to me about being more intentional, and that's exactly what you need to be, because you can get excited about something and make promises and say, let's go do this, and then you don't do follow-up.
Yeah.
And you don't do follow-up because you have this big vision, right?
Did I say my mission is to change the world?
That's right. Change the world through.
And I believe it, though.
Yeah.
It's not like, but like, that's not easy.
Well, it's a big, hairy, audacious goal.
Right.
And that's what you should have.
And I don't just say it to like, appeal to people. Like, it's really what drives me.
That's right.
Know? But I think I just have such audacious, big, hairy goals. And I am not good. I always say I'm amazing in the clouds.
You need someone to do details for you.
I'm horrible in the dirt.
And you have great assistants. My great friend Mark Renke did your PI readback and did your team's readback, and you have detail-oriented people around you.
Yeah.
And it just kind of happened, right?
No.
And Al and I need the same thing. Like Maria was my detail person, and Craig and Nick are more detail oriented.
I like to think I'm pretty intentional with the people. I'm very self-aware of my weaknesses, self-conscious.
That's beautiful.
I would say self-conscious, almost to a point of default, where you know what I mean, where I'm like, I don't think I can do anything. I was convinced I was a big old dummy growing up.
You have a little imposter syndrome?
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
The worst. Are you kidding me? I try to give advice to restaurant owners, and I've never owned a restaurant.
Yeah.
You don't think I have imposter syndrome? But what it helped me is to realize that like I'm well intended.
But you grew up in one. Let's just be
Right.
clear. Yeah.
I'm well intended. I have big dreams and big aspirations. I fall short of my goals often.
Yes. Overpromising
Yes.
is really what a promoter can do if you want to go to the cautionaries.
Right. So how it served me is just realizing that like if I want to do this, I need to slow down.
Yeah.
And I think the other thing I'm really guilty of is I want to serve people. I
Right.
want people to like me. I want to add value to other people's lives. I make promises. Let's promote you.
Yes.
Let's help you.
Yes.
And then I underestimate the amount of bandwidth it's going to take to do it right.
Right. Yeah. You can get ahead of yourself a little
Right.
bit, and that's fine. But if you want somebody to be a champion of an idea within your organization, or somebody that can really just be that literal, like bullhorn that can synthesize ideas and see the codification in it, and then, basically regurgitate that codification to the masses, go get yourself a promoter. I mean, and they're beautiful message carriers. They're vision movers.
They're culture carriers.
Yeah, they are truly vision movers. They just, need to be a little more intentional.
So the definition of superficial, if anybody is curious, I'm sure most people know, but the specific definition, existing or occurring at or on the surface, which is ironic because when I talk to people about the kind of person I am,
Yes.
I am a speedboat cruising at 100 miles an hour
Right.
at the surface.
Yes.
I don't like to drill down.
Mm-hmm.
I don't have the patience to drill down.
Right.
I'm big picture. A mile above the surface of the ocean. I can see what's going on down there, but I don't want anything to do with it.
Right.
I would rather promote somebody
Sounds
who's good
like
at it.
Sounds
Sounds
like all
like-
three of us here.
Yeah, sounds like a Maverick wannabe to me.
Yeah, that's right.
But even just being able to, another thing that's so key. We're making a really great point right now. Part of culture is a language. When you go through and you take this assessment, you're giving yourself and your team a common language,
Yes.
so you can communicate, and that in itself is invaluable.
And that's what Al was saying.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, I think we're going to take one more quick break to thank our sponsors.
Okay.
When we come back, we'll decide what we're going to talk about.
Yeah, we'll talk about the big picture.
We have to interrupt today's video to let you know that right now, Restaurant Systems Pro is offering a no strings attached 60-day trial that will help you improve your systems, increase your profit, and find better work-life balance. All you have to do is click the link below.
We're back. What I would like to spend the rest of our time focusing on, and I think Al already kind of alluded to it a little bit, is this idea that once it starts with you, and it ripples out.
That's right.
And I think we've gotten to the point where you've rippled out, Al, to like your immediate partners, your business partners, the people that are closest to you, and how it's helped you. But like, what's the big picture?
Well, you hit on it at the very end before we took break. Is it's helped create a common language, and so it's really interesting. I'll be talking to a general manager, have a meeting, and they're talking about their weekly meeting with a manager, and they're absolutely utilizing. Hey, I reviewed their PI before we went into the meeting, and they're utilizing the tool and they're reflecting on it, and so that is the ripple effect. The fact that this common language, starting with the values, starting with the leadership training, and then really the moment of know thyself through PI, and then subsequently reflecting on it to help develop others, develop your teams, that's the major ripple effect. It's giving, and you see the toolkit. I mean, think about it, void of predictive index, each general manager or chef or whomever is left by their own vocabulary, their own experiences that could be outstanding or they could be incredibly random, and most importantly, they also can be incredibly off track. You could be bringing the exact opposite of what that person needs in their development, and that is what we identified in working with Ed as one of the biggest problems in our industry. One of the biggest problems in our industry is crappy management. It's the biggest problem. And so we've kind of tightened that up. We've tightened that up by creating a common language, but it's not just a language that we developed on our own.
Well, there's a unique situation. Sorry if I'm cutting
No,
you short.
go.
In the restaurant industry, how many other industries, if you go from line, like entry level line staff to management, you take a pay cut?
Yeah.
No wonder why there's a friggin' issue. That being said, when you're taking a pay cut, you're also giving yourself an education, which I think we undervalue. So there's a little bit of a give and take. You might be taking a step back or sideways, but you're getting under a much higher ceiling when you give yourself those skills, because you can go anywhere with them.
Yeah. Well, one of the 5 pillars of emotional intelligence is motivation, and it's motivation beyond money. So I think a lot of the people that can take that leap, I was always in the back of the house, and then I moved to the front of the house, so there was never a money issue for me. But the people who go from server and to say management, yeah, sometimes there is
Or
a
bartender to management.
yeah, exactly.
That could be a $30,000 pay cut.
It could be. I think it's gotten better now.
Yeah.
I think we pay better now for our managers. But yes, that you have to be motivated beyond money. And then there's something called the golden handcuffs. It's a beautiful thing, and I love people that are bartenders for life. It's beautiful. But, you get to a point where, standing for, 8 to 12 hours a day can get tough. So, to be able to make that move and to pivot and reinvent yourself and upskill into management, yeah, there can't be such an obsession around it's all about the money.
Right. Any other big picture things that we want to get out. I'm loving how smooth it is. This past hour, I don't know about you guys, flew by.
Yeah.
I was thinking this is going to be maybe an hour interview.
Mm-hmm.
I still feel like I could keep on going.
Yeah.
But, what haven't we discussed, Ed, that you think is important?
We haven't talked about. There's in PI. There's many different opportunities for this growth we're talking about, and the biggest picture growth is in the part of the platform called design, where not only can you set a job target behaviorally within the assessment within the platform to find if we're going to find that person, the right person for the right seat on the bus, right? You build the job target. And just a little side here, and this is important. It's not just PI. When we're onboarding with PI, we're not just looking at job targets and assessments and alignment to the job. There's other factors, and it's important to understand that people will think that PI is this way of keeping people out. It's very inclusive. There's whether their heart is aligned, do they love people and do they like to serve? That's a big part of hospitality. And do they have the the skills and the knowledge and the background, maybe the education to do the job as well? PI is just a part of that.
Yeah, I just echo that point. We don't use PI as a disqualifier at all. I mean, we tell people right away, hey, you're going to get this. Here's a little bit about it. I think you're going to be pretty intrigued by it. You're going to get a copy. And it just allows us to examine those skills in a different way.
It allows us to best serve you.
Yeah, 100%.
Well, yeah, and you start a conversation. Imagine me just going up to you saying, you're really superficial, right? You have to accept it first.
Yeah.
Or because people aren't going to accept direct criticism. So it's a way of starting the conversation where we can say there's some challenges here. But the bigger picture thing that we wanted to talk about is the competing values platform, which is the design part of designing an intentional team within PI.
I mean, if one of your core values, Al, is to empower people or to lift people up or to, and I'm paraphrasing.
Making it all about people.
Yeah, to communicate to somebody who's interested in working with you, I am going to have you take this analysis that you can take with you, and it will serve you for the rest of your life because it will make you more self-aware. The most important skill moving forward into the future, self-awareness, and you wouldn't that from the get-go, from the first point of contact, you are living your mission. And I think if you take that approach of that's why we're doing this, it's because I'm here to serve you.
Excellent.
And the best way I can serve you is by helping you become self-aware. So when you go beyond this place, you can copy this and attach it to your resume going forward.
Yeah, I think you're hitting a great point. It's not something we just spring on you and we frame it. I mean, to me, it is. I actually want to see I want to see the reaction because it's an investment. And so it's kind of part of we're being interviewed, they're interviewing us, we're interviewing them, and yet when we're introducing the concept around PI to an applicant, I want them to be excited about it,
right? Because
I want them to recognize that this company puts its money where its mouth is, and secondly, if there's a fear of self-awareness, that would be the only disqualifier. Right. So it's not the test itself or the assessment itself. It's I don't want to do that. I actually had a person tell me, I took a test like this once and I never heard back again. I go, well, that's not what this test is about.
Yeah.
Right.
You made a really important point. It is an investment. That's something I wanted to come out of today's conversation to make sure people are aware that this is an investment. It's not like you can wave a wand and this happens, right? It's a time investment. It's a financial investment. It's an energy investment.
There's a learning curve investment.
Oh, for sure.
Yeah.
But at the same time, how much money goes into training people?
Oh.
Where does that? I mean, you're the consultant, Ed.
Right.
Labor costs is up there in the prime costs, right? So it's just labor alone.
Yep.
But then the cost of training people and the turnover and how does the ROI manifest?
It's in turnover. Turnover is the thing you can't read on a P&L, and it can be $25,000 per person, depending on that person's role in the organization. I remember 25 years ago reading the National Restaurant Association said even the frontline people, after training and all of the lower productivity you get, the waste, right, and then having somebody who has to train that person. This is 25 years ago. They estimated it was about $7,500 per person. That was 25 years ago. Well, this thing called inflation, 25,000, and it doesn't show up on your P&L. So, and by the way, on my website and on the Predictive Index website, there's a turnover calculator that you can use. It's devastating.
Yeah.
It can be literally millions of dollars a year in average size organizations. But there's just no line item for it on your P&L.
Right.
Yeah.
It's so hard to track. Al, do you have any data that supports this personally, just from like your business, on like the money you guys spend on training? And
Well, we have a good understanding of what we spend on training. That's an easy one to break out.
Mm-hmm.
And we're fortunate. I mean, our turnover is, I kind of look at turnover a couple ways. There's good turnover and bad turnover.
Mm-hmm.
And good turnover is, somebody that...
can I guess?
Well, I'll give you an example. We have a server here, Barry. He started with us on the opening team, but he was a musician, and he was a talented musician, and that was his passion. And he just got an opportunity to go teach music, and it prohibited him from working at night any longer. But that's good turnover.
Yeah.
He made a great contribution. We'll always have the best love for Barry, but when I see someone walk out the door to do something that is their why, I don't measure that turnover. Bad turnover is somebody that, boy, you just missed on.
Right.
You just missed, and you missed in a lot of different ways. And it could have been organizationally, individual. It could have been just the way they were handled. Those are that's the bad turnover.
Right.
When someone's pursuing their dream, pursuing their why, and I'd like to think that their time spent with us will only enhance that next step of their life. But as my contemporaries go in Philadelphia around here, and even in other cities, we're proud of our turnover numbers.
Yeah.
They are. They're under industry standards of what we read. Let's put it that way.
Maybe it has something to do with the amount of money you're putting into the investment you're putting into your people to make sure they don't go anywhere.
Yeah, I think that's
so they stay longer.
Yeah,
right.
I mean, I think that our people are really committed to doing excellent work, and so lights, camera, action is something that we put a lot of time into. And so when staff comes in to work, they're coming into a restaurant that is. We've thought about the day, and we thought about making sure there's enough spoons.
Yeah. I'm loving this conversation. I want to point out one thing, and then we can start to wrap it up, unless there's anything else that hasn't come out. But you said turnover is hard to measure, right? Both good and bad, or both bad, I should say, and good turnover is hard to measure.
Well, the turnover is not hard to measure. That's not the math. It's the impact on the organization.
Right.
That's hard to measure.
But I guess the point I want to make is that both, regardless of whether it's bad turnover or good turnover, you have to just have faith that the good turnover adds value to your business long term.
Yes,
because it's positive ripples.
That's right,
and that's untraceable.
When
those ripples go out into the ether, it's energy.
Brand ambassadors, advocates for your brand. We can't
track it.
Yeah, I mean, it's incredible.
But it's out there.
That's right.
When it's bad turnover, because you're a dink or whatever reason, they don't like you, well, guess what? Everyone else is going to know. And you
will not be an employer of choice.
That energy also ripples out there.
Yeah.
It is so hard to track.
That's hard to track.
That energy is the difference between the good and the bad.
Listen, this is really an important point, and I don't want to miss this point. You have a reputation as a company that serves and feeds people. You have a reputation as a company that that handles people. And that reputation in a small, big town like Philadelphia can be devastating if you're trying to recruit.
People talk.
Yeah, I've had clients that where they struggle culturally and they can't find people. Surprise, surprise.
Right.
And then there's companies like Defined and resumes come in. It's as simple as that. And it's really important.
Yeah.
And in this really crucial and difficult.
Are we allowed to talk about what next, like maybe based off business size, organizational size, and what the expected investment would be to work with somebody like you, Ed, and PI, as far as like what monetary effort it takes to get this ball rolling? Is that something you're able to talk about?
What do I charge, you mean?
Yeah, like what? Like if I'm listening to this, I'm like, sign me up.
Right.
I'm intrigued.
Mm-hmm.
Can we just be transparent about what the investment looks like?
We can be, but all my clients want different things. So it really varies based on the amount of time that I have to spend and the content I have to create.
Yeah. Gotcha. What about just not you, but PI in general?
PI is a platform that has 4 different modules, and they all charge separately. If you buy all 4 modules, it's depending on the size of your team also. But if you have a team of 50, it's about $10,000 a year. It's an investment.
That stacked up against the other numbers you shared?
Oh, yeah.
And I think that's the thing. Do you want to speak to this, Al?
No.
But when
How did you rationalize it? Let me ask you that.
It was, again, it was a moment in time where Greg, Nick, and I were looking at this going, the irony was it was probably the worst time financially, but it was, how are we going to catapult ourselves to the front of the line?
Yeah.
We want to be in front of the line. We're competitive guys. We want the restaurants to be excellent. We want the best people. And we knew that was going to take a commitment, because without the best people, we wouldn't get the best servers. Without the best servers, we wouldn't get the best bus people, and so forth. And
dude,
and that's so it was just,
the restaurant with the best people wins.
I gotta point it out. I literally just finished interviewing one of your business partners, Chef. I'm always afraid to knock. I'm always afraid to say your name. What a lovely woman. You weren't there for that conversation, but she reinforced everything we're talking about right now. When I talked to her about who were you before Defined, who were you after Defined, she's like, my partners elevated me. My partners let me focus on what I do so they can focus on what they do, and so we can all go further together. The values that you, Nick, Greg have to give and to make it about others and to make it about relationships and growing and collectiveness attracted her onto you, and she is doing so many amazing things for your collective group right now. Just won Best Chef Mid-Atlantic, James Beard. This is the examples of how it ripples.
Yeah.
It comes back. You have to have faith. $10,000 to help understand your people, to get aligned with your people, to serve your people so you can stay in your lane and do what you do and go further. You cannot measure it. And you have to have faith that if you're proactive, if you live intentionally, and you get ahead of the curve, it comes back around.
Well,
I believe in this shit. Can you guys tell?
Go ahead.
I do have to ask, did she say which partner she liked the best?
I don't know if she said which one.
Oh, we should get her back on.
Okay.
Yeah. Well, think about it. Like, the story I told.
She did call you brothers, though.
Yeah.
Oh, actually, I think she said work husbands.
Work husbands.
Work husbands.
Yeah. Well, she's a blessing, not just to our company,
sure.
but to this entire community. I mean, this person she wakes up and does more by the time most people are having their second cup of coffee than most people. She's out there. You're talking about a front liner. This is it. She's one of the most giving human beings that I've ever come across. Yeah. So it's an inspiration to be around her. Yeah. But think about the 10,000. Just think about the one story I told about my inability to read the general manager properly because I wasn't thinking about the general manager on our weekly meeting. That alone, and that's just one example.
Right.
So you look at all these little interconnected examples of manager to manager, manager to chef, chef to manager. It goes on and on and on. And any one of those moments can cost you more than $10,000 in some odd way.
Lawsuit.
Yeah, I mean that's the extreme, but someone that was really
one extreme that can be
awful.
The nail in the coffin.
Yeah, but someone that's really poised to make a big difference in the organization who becomes bad turnover. That's well over $10,000.
Right.
And it only takes you only need to lose one like that, and where it's costly.
Got it. One more question before we wrap it up. As a promoter, Ed,
yes,
am I a precise individual?
Are you precise? You can be.
Yeah.
But you're more of a generalist.
Yeah.
But the thing is that needs and drives stay the same. Your behavior can change. Once you get that awareness, you now are working on being more intentional and less of a generalist.
I like to say I love chaos. Chaos is my hot tub. I want to soak in it. I want to
open a restaurant.
I love it. I'm not planned out. I'm not strategic.
Right.
And that's one of my weaknesses is I kind of just thrust myself into situations.
Mm-hmm.
But I am aware of it and I use it to my benefit. And I'm also willing to live like that. And most people aren't.
Yes.
So I use it to my benefit. I am here because of chaos. Because I was willing to go chase the story, to talk to people, to listen, and to follow the leads. And those leads have brought me here.
Yes.
This is, and I just want to make sure this isn't a precise, how much planning did we do before this conversation?
0.
Yeah.
This is coming from the heart. This is organic. The universe has literally steered me here. I started today's conversation with saying I spoke to Eli Culp. Eli Culp told me to talk to the Define Hospitality. Define Hospitality told me to talk to Ed. Ed told me to talk to Predictive Index. I went through the process with Predictive Index.
With your team.
I lived it. I'm benefiting from it. And I am, holy shit, this shit is powerful.
Yes.
And that's why we're here right now. Because my job is to chase the truth. And I recognize that truth is relative. My truth might not be your truth.
Yep.
But you need to open yourself up to the perspectives and find out what's your truth. And this is something that should be on your radar.
Yes.
Yeah, I think the thing you should also hear from my vantage point, at least, is you're playing a role that is important to the restaurants because 80% of the people left, and you see it entirely different. You see it as a place to be, and you're going out there. I mean, I've listened to half a dozen of your podcasts with other restaurant people, and I would have never met them if I didn't meet you. And it gives me inspiration and energy to keep doing it because this is a worthwhile industry. This is it's important. People walk through these doors. They need something restored by sitting down and having a great meal with tremendous hospitality. And so make no mistake, your promoterness is making a difference also because it gives us a little more energy to keep going harder and faster and in a proudful way. So thank you.
Thank you very much. The pleasure is mine. This has been a lot of fun. I appreciate you guys being so flexible to allow me to come into your space and to continue the conversation and to continue to make an example of your people and what you're doing. It's an honor. Any final thoughts before we say goodbye?
No.
After listening to the show, Al, and becoming more familiar with it, I'm going to put you on the spot again. Who do you respect and admire? Let's keep this vein going. Who do you respect and admire and believe I should make an example of? Somebody that, now that you're listening to the show, some of you are like, I really wish you would talk to this person.
Yeah, well, I think I turned you on to Amanda Schulman, and,
yes.
And
I still haven't connected. That's right. I should have reached out to
you. She's special. She's getting accolades left and right for her skill. But I think the most important thing about Amanda is that she is out there she's trying to think about what's next in terms of everybody's experience, her staff, her customers, herself. She's recently married. She's got a great sense of the big picture and with a whole lot of talent underneath of it. And so I look at her as one of the potential great young innovators in our industry that will not only going to put some great food on your plate, but I think that she's going to do something that is will really affect the industry, not just Philadelphia. And she already is. She already is. So every time I'm around her, I just love every second of it. She asks great questions. She is every bit as good with numbers as she is with the saute pan. So there's a lot more that meets the eye than you might think in terms of, she's not all cook. She's a lot of brains.
Yeah.
She's a lot of heart. So I think that's one person that I look to right now. She brings me energy and inspiration to do better, be better.
I got a lot of reason to come back to Philadelphia. Amanda, Chef Knock called out Vernick.
Yeah,
and Greg Vernick.
Greg,
right?
Yeah, but he's amazing. Him and his wife are phenomenal. I've known him for a long time, and they're just, they're true blue. They are fantastic human beings and world-class experiences. I mean, their restaurants are phenomenal.
Yes.
And they are, they're the good guys.
Mike Salmanov is the other name that was mentioned.
Yeah, Michael's
is a
phenomenal.
past guest, but that was like one of my first interviews ever, like first 50. And
Wow.
Don't listen to it.
He's been through a lot since then.
And then I also Honeycomb, CEO of Honeycomb, was referred to me.
Honeygrow?
Honeygrow, thank you.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I started that organization. I helped him open his
really?
first Honeygrow.
Set it up, man.
Yeah.
Please,
Justin.
Please set it up. Is what
Justin
I meant to say.
Rosenberg. Yeah.
Justin, that's right.
Yep.
So that's four reasons. That's 4 reasons to come back. So I'll be back soon. Worth the visit out here. And now, I guess I say if we're interested, what's the call to action if we're interested?
Well, I'd love you to try PI. The thing about PI is that they're a very giving organization too, and they do freemiums. So you can get a provisional account and play with it for nothing, for a limited time. But if you want to start the journey of self-awareness, I guess we'll put something, on your...
Yeah, listen to the closing thoughts. I think we're going to communicate after this recording, get a line on what the specific call to action is.
A link to click and take PI, and then you can set up a conversation with me and go from there.
So that's, just to be clear, it's the freemium. What's included? Like, what will we get if we go to this website, we sign up?
You'll get an assessment. You'll get your assessment.
So the self-awareness.
For
free, you will become more self-aware.
You'll get a
for 6
behavioral
minutes.
assessment. You'll get the BA.
There's 6,000 people listening to this. If I don't get at least 1,000 people clicking on this
come on,
link,
people.
I'm gonna throw myself out a window.
And then if you would like, you could even set up an opportunity for a half-hour call with me, and I'll do a readback for you and see if it works for you and your organization for free.
Jesus Christ.
Yep.
I didn't know you were going to do that.
That's 1,000 hours.
Yeah.
Right there.
If we get 10, I'm happy. So,
I mean, these people are here for a reason. They came to me organically. I've done the work. I've showed my work. This is authentic. This is genuine. This is transparent. And that's why I'm pushing it, because I'm a promoter and I believe in this shit.
Well, we're both promoters as well, and I'm promoting this idea that self-awareness and emotional intelligence and being a better leader and being a better person can attract people to our industry, and that's what it's about.
And I do want to make sure if people listen to this and they did not catch both Ed and Al's first episode, if you head over to restaurantunstoppable.com/987, you can listen to Al's first interview. If you head over to restaurantunstoppable.com/1008, you can listen to Ed's episode, and this is episode 1032. Head over to restaurantunstoppable.com/1032. Whatever link we have to set up time with Ed, it will be in the show notes. It will be restaurantunstoppable.com/something. Listen to the closing thoughts and change your life. Take action and change your life.
Let's go.
I can't wait to
be a maverick.
Now is when I say thank you guys so much.
Yeah, thank you.
I just ask questions. You guys make what I do possible, and I'm just so grateful. There is no questioning. You are both unstoppable.
Thanks, Eric.
Cheers.
Thank you.